back to TV5 News at 9, and it's time now for Education Matters. We are here with Dr. Craig Douglas. Thank you so much, Dr. Douglas, for joining us. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well. How are you, Colette?
I am doing great. Great to see you. We're so excited that you're here. Now, viewers, in honor of Black History Month, we have been featuring some of the most influential educators in American history. Now, today we're in for a real treat because we are talking about some of our local trailblazers right here in mid-Michigan. So, Dr. Douglas, let's first start off with someone who grew up right here in Saginaw. Can you tell us a little bit about Bernice Barlow and her journey to becoming a leader in the community?
Absolutely. Full credit goes to Jerome Buckley, editor and publisher of the Michigan Banner, who in his February 1st edition featured a number of Black educators and Black leaders in our region. And I've selected Bernice and two others for today's segment. They are representative of many, many outstanding individuals who have persevered and blazed trails for all of us. So Bernice Barlow, born in 1928, passed in 2013, was a Saginaw High graduate and earned degrees from Delta College and Michigan State University, so she was a Spartan. She was a classroom teacher for 32 years and served in Saginaw City schools in these elementaries, Potter, Jerome, and Merrill Park. So some of the viewers may remember either knowing about Bernice or maybe even having her as a teacher. She was the first African American to become president of the Saginaw Education Association. That's the teachers union. And concurrently, Bernice Barlow became active within the Saginaw branch of the NAACP and rose to the position of president in 1968. Now, in those times, there were many, many issues nationally, at the state level, and also locally. A lot of unrest, and Bernice's steady leadership is credited with helping the NAACP here locally resolve many issues of leadership and organization. Her legacy has been sustained by an annual scholarship in her name, overseen by our own local Saginaw Community Foundation.
Oh my goodness, what a trailblazer. And to think, right here in Saginaw, she's really paved the way for so many educators. Dr. Douglas, now let's move on to another Saginaw native, Frances Molton. Now tell us a little bit about her career and her role in Saginaw schools.
Parallels Bernice's in some ways, but Frances Molton Carter was born in 1928, passed in 2020, graduated from Saginaw High and became a CMU Chippewa. She went to CMU to earn her teaching degree and then later completed a master's degree from Michigan. So she was a Wolverine, but she also studied at the University of California and at MSU. In 1973, she became the first African American principal in Saginaw schools when she accepted the role of principalship of Potter Elementary. So likely her paths crossed with Bernice's. In doing so, she was very modest and gave credit to all of her colleagues with whom she worked. And Mike Thompson, who wrote the article that highlighted Frances Molton Carter, noted in his article that if she were alive today, she probably would have become a school superintendent. Back then, not very common, but today she would have probably risen to that level.
So impressive to hear about her. Now, Dr. Douglas, finally, let's talk about General David Hall. Now, how did he end up in Saginaw, and how did he become such an influential educator in our area?
Fascinating story. General Hall was born in 1928. He passed in 2020. Grew up in Gary, Indiana. And he went off to Howard University, earned a degree there, and then began a military career when he enlisted in the Air Force in 1951. That was the year before I was born, to be honest with you, Colette. So think about that. And in context, that was only 3 years after the Air Force became integrated. So he was a trailblazer in the military and ascended all the way to the rank of Brigadier General. Fascinating military path. So when he retired in 1991, he settled in Saginaw to our benefit. And in his retirement, began a teaching career, and his focus was on kind of an obvious area for him, leadership. He taught at Northwood and also at Saginaw Valley State University. And he authored a book called The ABCs of Leadership. And he was very visible and active in civic organizations. I actually had the honor of serving on the Saginaw Community Foundation board when David was on the board, and then our paths crossed throughout many different efforts and fundraising efforts, United Way, et cetera, et cetera. And I consider him a mentor, Colette. He was a very influential leader in our region and is sorely missed. His final resting place is fittingly Arlington National Cemetery. So
wow.
Mike Thompson, Jerome Buckley, I thought did a great job of framing many leaders. I selected these three trailblazers as examples of all of them. They overcame barriers, they broke new ground, just are excellent examples for all of us, including, of course, our youth.
So impressive and great role models for all of us. Thank you so much for bringing us this information, Dr. Douglas, and for telling us about these important Michiganders. So many students are used to learning about historic figures in our country's history, but why is it also important to learn about the history of our own communities right here in mid-Michigan?
Well, it's a way to pay respect and homage to the legacies that we have touched upon, and it's a way to give encouragement to any of us when we hit a wall or a barrier to push through, because these examples, these wonderful lives have proven that if you keep the grit, keep the perseverance, keep moving forward, that great things can happen.
Well, Dr. Douglas, we appreciate you informing us about these influential educators right here in mid-Michigan. Thank you so much for calling in today, Dr. Douglas. We appreciate you.
And thank you. And thank you for highlighting all the African-American leaders that you have on TV5. It's wonderful.
It is
Take
so
care
important.
and stay safe.
Thank you, Dr. Douglas. You as well. We appreciate you. For more information about today's topic, check out the school source page at WNEM.com.